The name of the program is Opening Soon at a theater near you. Two critics taking a monthly look at the movies. And across the aisle from me is Gene Siskel, film critic for the Chicago Tribune and CBS TV News in Chicago.
And this is Roger Ebert, the Pulitzer Prize-winning film critic from the Chicago Sun-Times. This month we have something special, our year-end review of the 10 best films to play here in 1976. By now, Roger and I normally would have seen each other's lists published in the competing newspapers that we work for. Except for this show, we decided not to look, but instead to be surprised and maybe be astonished by each other's choices. So let's get started. Roger?
Gene, I think I'll start with the last film on my list, the number 10 movie. I chose The Shootist, a John Wayne Western directed by Don Siegel, and I chose it mostly because of John Wayne himself. In the movie, John Wayne plays an aging gunfighter who is told by his doctor that he's dying of incurable cancer. Goes to a small town to die, but his reputation follows him, and he finds himself forced once again into the role of a killer. In this clip, we see him discussing his standards of a lifetime with Ron Howard, who plays a young hero worshiper.
Mr. Brooks?
Yeah?
How'd you ever kill so many men?
I lived most of my life in the wild country, and you set a code of laws to live by.
What laws?
I won't be wronged, I won't be insulted, I won't be laid a hand on. I don't do these things to other people, and I require the same from them.
But how could you get into so many fights and then always come out on top? I nearly tied you shooting.
Friend, there's nobody up there shooting back at you. It isn't always being fast or even accurate that counts. It's being willing. I found out early that most men, regardless of cause or need, aren't willing. They blink an eye or draw a breath before they pull a trigger. I won't.
That's essence of Wayne. He could almost be talking about himself in any of his dozens of westerns. And whether you like him or not, John Wayne has become a basic fact of American movies, an elemental presence, almost a natural force. And The Shootist is a movie that really pays tribute to Wayne's legendary stature.
And that was just the problem for me. I thought it paid too much tribute to him. You know, he's playing a rough character. All he does is get insulted and he kills somebody. I think that the film would have been better if the kid had been rougher on Wayne and Wayne had been rougher on himself. When he's dying, I thought he should have had more mixed thoughts. Well, in my list of choices, generally speaking, I thought 1976 was a pretty lousy year for movies. Too many sequels, too many remakes, and too much violence. But my number 10 choice offered something fresh. It had real wit. In John Huston's adventure story, The Man Who Would Be King, Michael Caine and Sean Connery play two 19th century soldiers of fortune who hire themselves out to train the military troops in an isolated village in India.
We're going to teach you soldiering, the world's noblest profession. When we've done with you, you'll be able to stand up and slaughter your enemies like civilized men. But first, you'll have to learn to march in step to the manual of arms without even having to think. Good soldiers don't think. They just obey. Do you suppose if a man fought twice, he'd give his life for queen and country? Not bloody likely. He wouldn't go near the battlefield. One look at your foolish faces tells me you're going to be crack troops. Oh, him there with a 5.5 hat size has the makings of a bloody hero.
It's funny stuff, and bitter too. Caine and Connery in the picture plan to train the troops and then use them, as Connery says in the film, to loot the village 4 ways from Sunday. It's a grand adventure with old-fashioned charm and energy of a classic picture like, let's say, Gunga Din. Hodge?
Gene, you didn't like my 10th choice, but I must say you started out pretty well with your 10th choice. I liked it too.
Well, I'd like to know what your best picture is of the year.
Well, Gene, my choice for Best Picture of the Year was a film that's almost impossible to dislike, Francois Truffaut's Small Change. It's a movie about being a kid and growing up, or trying to, if the adults will let you, and Truffaut has a great touch for just the right moments of childhood, like in this clip. The kid has been called on to recite, and he obviously doesn't know the answer, but the clock outside the window says the school day's almost over, and the bell's about to ring. Watch the way Truffaut builds the suspense.
Dates importantes du 15e au 18e siècle. Philippou, 1572.
Le massacre de Saint-Barthélemy.
1610.
Mort de Henri IV.
1648. Traité de Westphalie, l'Alsace devient française.
Bien. Caragel, 1685.
Louis XIV révoque les Vietnam.
1763.
Traité de Paris, perte de l'Inde et du Canada.
Bien. Le clou. Le clou. Excuse-moi de te réveiller. Tu as l'air complètement hagard. Tu ne sais pas ce que ça veut dire? Avoir l'air hagard, c'est avoir l'air égaré. Exactement comme toi en ce moment. Allez, passons à un autre. Voyons. Jala, 1492.
Christophe Colomb découvre l'Amérique.
1515.
François Ier vainqueur à Marignan.
Oui, c'est pas mal, mais on t'a soufflé. Desmousseaux, 1685. Eh bien, Desmousseaux, tu m'entends? Desmousseaux, debout, s'il te plaît. Desmousseaux, c'est par ici que ça se passe. Regarde-moi. Tu comprends? Regarde-moi. Regarde-moi, par ici. Mais enfin, Desmousseaux, tu es sourd ou quoi? Tu n'as pas entendu ma question?
A moment out of everybody's childhood. And did you notice how Truffaut made the clock get bigger and bigger as it grew more important in the boy's mind? I think Truffaut is just about the complete filmmaker, able to generate and understand human emotions in movies ranging from bleak despair, like The Story of Adele H., to the lighthearted cheerfulness of Small Change.
Well, I'm with you there, because what I liked about this picture, the Truffaut film, is the positive energy of it. You know, we had so many films about death this year, but this one was very life-affirming, and it was uplifting to watch it. And what he did with kids was something a little bit different. Disney's films have kids in them, but they're always playing around with raccoons. In this picture, they're talking about real emotions. They're real kids, and they're real feelings, and I thought it was really a lovely film. I agree with you.
I think it's remarkable that in the same year he could give us The Story of Adele H. and Small Change. I think he's really at the top of his career.
Tell me what else is on the rest of your list.
Well, Gene, I guess this will be your first look at the Sunday Sun-Times. That's my list right there.
Okay, I'll look, you talk.
In second place is Taxi Driver, Martin Scorsese's terrifying excursion into urban violence, which won first prize at this year's Cannes Film Festival. Robert De Niro plays a New York loner who plunges more and more deeply into his private madness, as we see in this clip.
Too much sitting has ruined my body. Too much abuse has gone on for too long. From now on, it'll be 50 push-ups each morning, 50 pull-ups. There'll be no more pills. There'll be no more bad food. No more destroyers of my body. From now on, it'll be total organization. Every muscle must be tight.
Taxi Driver, violent and important. The third film on my list went to a much more cheerful film, Ingmar Bergman's comedy, The Magic Flute. After a decade of making movies about human suffering, Bergman used Mozart's opera to make a movie filled with life and beauty. Fourth place went to The Clockmaker, a first film from France by Bertrand Tavernier. It's a very intelligent film about crime and about people's reaction to crime, and Philippe Noiret plays a father who learns that his son has committed murder. My fifth choice was Sidney Lumet's Network, a cynical, funny, and savage attack on network television. Patty Chayefsky, who knows TV inside out, wrote the screenplay, and it's about a newscaster who goes off the deep end and becomes a big success. The sixth place film has a magnificent title. Swept away by an unusual destiny in the blue sea of August, it was one of several hits this year for the Italian director Lina Wertmüller. She put a man and a woman on a deserted island for a battle of the sexes. For seventh place, I chose an emotional blockbuster named Rocky. It stars Sylvester Stallone as a punk prizefighter who gets a lucky chance at the heavyweight championship, and Talia Shire is the shy girl down the street who falls in love with him. In this clip, we see them on their first date, and then later, before the big fight.
Oh, man. He was never too smart. He says to me, you weren't born much of a brain, you know, so you better start using your body, right? So I'd become a fighter.
Oh.
You know what I mean? Why you left?
My mother, she said the opposite thing.
What'd she say? What'd she say the opposite?
She said you weren't born much of a body, so you better develop your brain.
Well, how about I wait here and you fight, huh? You know, you're looking very great today, you know that? I gotta go now, but don't you leave town, huh? Wish me luck. I'm gonna need it.
Good luck.
Say, Adrian, you don't think this road is too baggy, huh?
Good luck.
Don't leave town.
There weren't many movies that grabbed audiences and really involved in the way Rocky did this year. In 8th place on my list was All the President's Men, a movie about Watergate that kept us involved even though we already knew all too well how it would end. And in 9th place, I picked what I thought was the funniest movie of the year, Mel Brooks' silent movie. After several comedies with almost non-stop dialogue, Brooks left the words out this time, but the soundtrack is filled with lots of music, explosions, squealing tires, and shattering glass as Brooks and his friends, Marty Feldman and Dom DeLuise, race around Hollywood recruiting big stars to play in their silent movie. In this scene, they confront Burt Reynolds in the smallest room of his house. So that's my top 10, Gene. Small Change, Taxi Driver, Magic Flute, The Clockmaker, Network, Swept Away, Rocky, All the President's Men, Silent Movie, and The Shootist.
Okay, let me go down and look at your list and respond to each of those ones that you named. Taxi Driver, I liked it a lot, too. I think the character is significant that he plays. I thought that the film was awfully bloody and improbable at its end, and that maybe hurt the picture a little bit.
Necessarily bloody, I think.
Well, I think they could have done without... It would have been a more interesting picture if they had threatened to show the violence but not have kept it on.
But it would have been a different picture.
Yes, it would have been. A better one. Magic Flute is not one of my favorite operas, but I know it was well done, and I acknowledge that. The Clockmaker, I think it's a smaller picture. You seem to think it has a universal message, maybe. I don't, but I do think it's an interesting kind of story. Network, I'm right with you. I enjoyed that. And what I'm particularly glad is that you picked Swept Away by Lena Wertmuller rather than the other picture that got a lot of acclaim.
Seven Beauties.
Yeah, because I think that story was very theatrical, but really didn't have many ideas in it, whereas this picture was just plain entertaining. It's a very good performance.
I think it'll be around for a long time.
But because of the performances, I think everyone talks about Wertmuller, the director. These are great actors.
And a great story, too. We get involved in it.
Yeah, it's a real clash of personalities, and then it becomes a very human struggle, too. Rocky, I am half with you, half against. It's a fight film and a love story. I like the fighting in it. I love the boxing match and the whole emotion of that story, but the love story for me was sappy because this woman in the beginning borders on the catatonic. She isn't a real person, and her switch becomes very strange for me.
At the end, she borders on the celestial, but for me, that was what I liked about it. Even if it was corny, and even if it was obvious, it was romantic.
And I found it corny and obvious.
And not romantic.
Because of that, yeah. All the President Men, I'm with you on that because it's tough to do a newspaper story where they're chasing facts. That usually isn't very dramatic, but they somehow did that. Silent Movie, I laugh some of the time, but that's always true in comedies. You're up and down. What I didn't like about it, though, was that Mel Brooks was at the center of the picture. I don't find him a very interesting hero. He was playing the hero in this one. I wish it had been Gene Wilder or maybe Dom DeLuise.
Well, I differ with you there, but it's very hard to argue about comedy. But I think Mel Brooks is very funny. In fact, I find it hard to look at him and not laugh.
Okay, now it's my turn. You want to know my number one picture? Well, here it comes. 1976 wasn't a particularly good year for the movies, so my number one picture sort of wins by default. possibly because its excellence surprised me. It's All the President's Men, the Watergate movie, based on the story of the two Washington Post reporters who helped break much of the scandal. Here's a fine scene. You may remember it. The scene where they're just getting started on their first story together and where their egos clash for the first and last time.
Lou, hey Lou, you give me Mandel's up?
Yeah.
All right, listen, I want to comment about that thing you're saying. Right away, Lou. Right away.
How's it going? What are you doing? Polishing. You what? Polishing. What's wrong with it? Nothing, nothing. It's good. Then what are you doing with it? I'm just helping. It's a little fuzzy. May I have it? I don't think you're saying what you mean. I know exactly what I mean. Not here. I can't tell from this whether Hunt works for Colson or Colson works for Hunt. May I have it? And some of the conclusions. May I have it? Yes, I'm not looking for a fight. I'm not looking for a fight either. Well, the fact that you've only been here 9 months. What does that got to do with anything? Well, I've been in the business since I'm 16. What are you saying? Well, I'm trying to tell you that if you'd read mine and then read yours... May I read yours? Yeah. I walked by, gave yours a glance, it didn't look right, so I just figured I'd refine it a little. The first paragraph has to have more clarity. The reader's going to understand it. You don't mention Colson's name for the third paragraph. I think mine's better, but you go ahead and read it. If you think yours is better, we'll give yours to the desk. I got Colson's name up front. He was a White House consultant and nobody knows it. Yours is better.
Good acting there, and a tough scene because it's so talky. You know, it took a while, though, for me to get used to pretty boy Robert Redford as a newspaper reporter, but Dustin Hoffman, for me, fit right into his part. There were lots of great scenes in the picture. Hoffman worming his way into an informant's house, Redford's scary meetings with his primary source named Deep Throat. Whatever else this was, this picture was the best American political thriller in a long, long time.
And something else it was, Gene, as you mentioned, was a very good newspaper picture. I think most newspaper pictures are totally phony to anyone who's ever worked for a newspaper.
Yeah, people always running around saying,
Right.
"Give me
Stop the
rewrite."
presses.
Yeah, it's silly.
And I went to see this with a group of newspaper people. We came out, the lights went up, we said, that's like it is.
Another thing, in lesser hands, less skilled hands, this would have been just a cheap shot at Richard Nixon. Instead, it was a great drama.
How about your other top pictures this year?
Well, here's a copy of the Chicago Tribune with my list. You check it out. I laughed a lot at my Network, my second choice. It tore apart the television industry with a vengeance. In one very funny scene, Faye Dunaway of the Network's entertainment division tries to talk Network president Robert Duvall into letting her spark up their nightly news show with all sorts of gadgets, including an angry anchorman named Howard Beale who screams obscenities at his audience.
I want that show, Frank. I can turn that show into the biggest smash on television.
What do you mean you want that show? It's a news show. It's not your department.
I see Howard Beale as a latter-day prophet, a magnificent messianic figure inveighing against the hypocrisies of our times, a strip Savonarola Monday through Friday that I tell you, Frank, could just go through the roof. And I'm talking about a $6 cost per 1,000 show. I'm talking about $130,000 minutes. Do you want to figure out the revenues of a strip show that sells for $100,000 a minute? One show like that could pull this whole network right out of the hole. Now, Frank, it's being handed to us on a plate. Let's not blow it.
Let me think it over.
Frank, let's not go to committee on this. It's 20 after 10. We want Beale in that studio by 6:30. We don't want to lose the
For
momentum.
God's sakes, Diana, we're talking about putting a manifestly irresponsible man on national television.
A fine scene from Network. As you might expect, she gets her way, and I think she's going to win an Oscar for this picture. Of all the kinds of pictures that I like to see, I prefer comedies. And I also like movies that deal with what's really going on in the world. Network is both. My third choice is a Japanese film called Brothel Number 8. But don't get the idea this is some kind of cheap porno film. It's a very touching and true historical drama about young Japanese girls who, in the early part of this century, were sent all over Southeast Asia to help colonize the area by serving as prostitutes for Japanese workers and soldiers. But when the women got old and tried to return to their native Japan, they were treated like trash. It's a moving story, sensitively told. We've already talked about Small Change, my number 4 choice. That was the lovely Francois Truffaut film about children. My number 5 choice is Stay Hungry, a weird slice-of-life picture about a rich kid who turns his back on his wealthy heritage and hangs around a downtown bodybuilding club. It's a very dramatic fight scene in this picture. Jeff Bridges finds out his girlfriend, Sally Field, has been raped by the bodybuilding club's crazy owner.
I've been looking all over for you. You all right? Hello, baby. I'm not going to let you go. I love you.
Go.
Who let you go? What happened? Mary Kay!
I'm scared. We have to go.
What happened? What did he do to you? Larry! Find Joe! Find Joe!
I've seen a lot of fights in the movies over the years, and that was one of the scariest. But this picture wasn't all violent. It turned out to be sort of a love story, a fine film that said if you do anything, even bodybuilding, do it with energy and do it well. Number 6 for me is a sweet French film called Cousin Cousine. It's about 2 couples, 4 couples-in-law, cousins-in-law who switch partners. One couple has quick sex, the other has a long courtship. It's a movie that's the visual equivalent of Young Love and a great weekend in a hotel room. We've already talked about Taxi Driver, my number 7 choice. For me, it was a creepy picture that fell apart only when the blood began to flow. My number 8 choice, Robert Altman's Buffalo Bill and the Indians, bored a lot of people, but not me. This was a bittersweet comedy that tried to expose Buffalo Bill as America's first superstar and also as a bigoted show business phony who thought the only good Indians were either dead Indians or one working as secondary acts in his show. Paul Newman played Bill just fine. He played him as a vain jerk. Finally, in the number 9 slot is the 7% Solution, which first has Sigmund Freud cure Sherlock Holmes of his cocaine addiction, and then the two of them join forces to solve a kidnapping case. To do it, Dr. Watson hijacks a train, and Sherlock Holmes is forced to use a gun and a sword.
Where was this train originally heading? This is the Dresden local. It is now the Orient Express.
Good action there, but more often the picture has a clever script. 7% Solution was one of the few polished entertainments in a year filled with mostly slapdash movies. So, Roger, my top 10 are All the President's Men, Network, Brothel Number 8, Small Change, Stay Hungry, Cousin Cousine, Taxi Driver, Buffalo Bill and the Indians, The 7% Solution, and finally in the number 10 slot, The Man Who Would Be King.
Okay, Gene, according to my calculations, we agree on 4 pictures, we disagree on 6. But of those 6, I think probably 5 of them would make it into my top 15 or my top 20. Brothel Number 8, I thought was a very good picture, a women's picture from Japan, won their Academy Award.
You know, they only have one print of this picture that's subtitled and playing around town in the United States. I hope that we get more distribution of this film. It was a beauty.
It'd be nice, I agree with you. Stay Hungry, Bob Rafelson, who made 5 Easy Pieces. I think he's a very inventive director. Cousin Cousine, a charming picture. I don't think it's going to really last. It's kind of frothy. 7% Solution, witty, sophisticated, The Man Who Would Be King, a lot of fun, but I cannot agree with you on Robert Altman's Buffalo Bill and the Indians.
What didn't you like about it?
Well, first of all, because it was a disappointment stylistically from Altman, who I think is really one of the most exciting American directors, and I thought Nashville was the best picture of last year, but I didn't know what he was trying to tell us this time, and I'm not sure he did either.
Oh, I think it's pretty clear. He wanted to show us that this guy was a buffoon and that he was exploitive and that the whole business of entertainment started back even a century ago.
But he buried the buffoonery and the character and the business of entertainment in such a complex, stylistic muddle that it was very hard at times to figure out what you were supposed to be looking at or what you were supposed to be responding to.
Somehow I knew.
But then, well, the barking means it's time for the Dogs of the Year, and there were times this year, Gene, when there were so many dogs I didn't know whether I was a film critic or a dog catcher. And of all the dogs, the most obnoxious and boring were the endless and mindless car movies. I must have seen 40 car crashes, 17 exploding gas tanks, and 6 dozen close-ups of spinning tires in movies like Cannonball, The Gumball Rally, Death Race 2000, and this one, Eat My Dust.
Hey, you did it!
You know it.
Then there were the movies about possession by the devil and all those kids inhabited by evil spirits and about to murder their parents. Here's Gregory Peck in The Omen, one more unlucky dad getting the bad news.
He bears a birthmark, a sequence of sixes. So says the Bible to all the apostles of Satan.
And one of the year's worst so-called blockbusters was Midway. It was a gigantic bore, even with Charlton Heston fresh from Airport 75 in the cockpit, but at least it had a surprise ending. Charlton Heston went down in flames.
The year was littered with dogs, and my dog list contains 2 kinds of cinematic canines: cheap, lousy pictures and expensive, lousy pictures. One of the cheapest and lousiest was the Korean-made King Kong rip-off movie called Ape. The ape suit some actor was wearing looked like it had been made out of rat fur. The toy boat the monster destroyed looked like it came from Roger Ebert's bathtub. You know, they said this picture shouldn't be confused with King Kong. Hell, it shouldn't be confused with Godzilla versus the Smog Monster.
Take a lunch! Is that what he said?
That's what he said.
Well, why don't you take your lunch and shove it up your moviola?
Somebody should have taken the master print of Gable and Lombard and shredded it in a moviola. In real life, you can get arrested for playing around with dead bodies. The same should be true for movie makers who desecrate the memory of great dead actors.
Yeah, Ollie.
Hey, Sam McKeever.
We spotted a guy with a gun above the scoreboard. Is he shooting?
The most depressing picture of the year was 2 Minute Warning, the football stadium sniper movie. All it was a sicky trip watching spectators get hit by high-powered rifle fire and being trampled by each other as they fled the stadium. Just disgusting. That's the story for last year's films. Next month, we'll be talking about this year's new movies that will be opening soon at a theater near you.
Hooray for Hollywood, that's gooey bally-hooly Hollywood, where any office boy or young mechanic can be a panic with just a good-looking pan. And any shop girl can be a top girl if she pleases the tired businessman. Hooray for Hollywood!